But I would love Mary to switch on her microphone so that you can interrupt me at any time. So I'll make it less formal this time.
Okay.
Is that okay for you?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Sigi Jakob is here to talk to us about giving power to the learner. Sigi, you have many aliases, from the Mahara granny to the networking lady, and so we look forward to hearing you share, even if it's a little bit more informally, your thoughts on how we can really empower the learner. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for introducing me again to family. Anthony, I think I'm going to make this presentation slightly different, not doing it like last time, but doing it explaining what I was thinking, why I built it up like that. Because, you know, Mary and Sam, they are both experts. You've seen the first presentation, so it doesn't really make sense to do the same thing. Don't you think so?
That sounds great. Yeah, certainly a little variety will make it more interesting for you and probably more entertaining.
Yes, Sam, no, but it's not really the first time you see me present. You saw that in Leipzig, and you know me. And, well, I don't have to introduce Mahara to you, Sam. So there's no point. So just, oh, Mary is back. Okay, fine. Mary, I just said I'm giving a family presentation now because as well as you, as Sam, you all know everything about Mahara, so it's no point of explaining you the benefits of Mahara. I will explain why I did my presentation like this to explain the benefits to other people who have no idea. And there's someone arriving. Nadav, welcome. So maybe we should wait a few minutes until Nadav has got his mic on. Clear my throat. There's some frogs in the throat. So I called this presentation Power to the Learner. I'm not going to introduce myself, how long I've been retired and what I've been doing, because you know that. So I'm going to start right away, and then maybe when we are through the presentation, we can discuss certain points you are interested in. If you want to see the whole presentation on every slide in details, you can go to the recording. Nada. So I call this Power to the Learner because I think what goes wrong in education today, wherever I'm in teachers training, very, very often it's the technology people concentrate on. But I think technology has just to serve, technology has to work, and it has just to be there, exactly like a pencil or a book or whatsoever. It just has to be there and serve our purposes. So what are our purposes? I'm talking to you as a former teacher. As a teacher, my purposes were to empower my learners to be able, when they leave the school, and start learning for a job, that they are able to manage themselves to learn by themselves. So I think we have to train this already in school to empower the learner to control his own learning. This means that at the same time, if the learner has more control, the teacher has less control, and that's always the critical point in education, as we all know. Okay. So, as you can see from this picture, Moodle and Mahara are just tools. They are tools for teaching and for learning. And what you can see in the picture is a very elaborate tool. That's the famous Swiss knife. The Swiss knife has tools for any possible situation that you might come across in your life, from opening a bottle to digging a hole and to cutting your nails or whatsoever. You can do anything with it. But it always depends on the creativity of the owner, of the one who owns this knife, what you can do with it. Opening beer. I should have got a beer instead of this water. Yeah, right. I called my hubby to bring me a glass of wine. So Moodle and Mahara, first place, are only tools, and it very much depends. It very much depends what you do with it. You can build a hut just to survive, which is quite okay. If you think about the earthquake in Nepal, and people would be happy they had just tools to build a hut to survive, then it would be enough. But in education, for example, if people started with Moodle, what most people do is they start small, and this is perfectly okay. They would start by integrating stuff which they have used before. This is not really what Moodle is made for, but to get them into Moodle and to make them life easier in their normal classroom setting, this is perfectly okay, I think. But our goal is not really only to build huts, but we would like to build castles for life with our students, because that's where all the fun begins. We can rearrange, we can create, we can design, and we can do a lot of things. So if we have the tools, the teacher has the tools, the students have the tools, and all they need is creativity and enthusiasm to start building, and we can do this together. So it depends not only on the tools, but it depends on the builder, and the builder is the one who matters. In our case, I would say it's the teacher and it is the student. So what we always come across in schools is a very high tension. All of you who are teaching, I think you have been feeling this high tension between the two poles of, on one side, the teaching of knowledge, which we are constrained to do by the curriculum. We have to get over certain knowledge. And on the other side, the learners. The learners are, and we can all understand that, the learners must be very bored, or they are very bored, by just doing the test, by learning just to complete a test. So this is called Lernen statt Pauken, which means learning instead of Pauken is if you learn just for the next day's test, and then you all forget about it. That's Pauken. Free beer. So come on, you guys, you're talking about beer. I'm talking about learning and teaching. So please, a little bit of serious. So students are fed up with this old school, I call this old school learning. They just teach to test, but they want to learn, but they want to have a meaningful learning which has got something to do with their own life. And by doing that, by learning with meaningful topics, with meaningful projects, they will gain competences. And competences has become the buzzword in education these last, I would say, 2 years or so, in Germany at least. Teacher students, they have to show off their competences. If you apply for a job, you have to show your competences. But the trouble with competences and teachers is, teachers can teach all kind of stuff, but they cannot teach competences. They can help the students by helping them to gain their own competences and insights into things and understanding. So we have to kind of scaffold the learning process of the teachers, of the students. And then I would like to talk about active learning, not only meaningful learning, but active learning is when a person takes control of their own learning experience, which means it's not always the teacher who tells them exactly what they have to do, but the learner who understands that at a certain level they have to do this or this or this to get to their goal. So this is active learning. And learners, they have more incentive to learn when they have control not only how they learn, but also what they learn. So if I talk about this in a school setting, then people would come up immediately with the argument, well, but we are not free, or that we can't give this freedom to our students to choose what they learn, because there's the curriculum, there are the exams and everything. But I think the curriculum is flexible enough that we can let the students choose where they want to start, where they want to go, what they want to do first, and how they do it. The important thing is that they have a goal and that they are directed to this goal. You are about Anthony. Come on, guys. How do you expect me to do a serious presentation if you are talking about empowering drinkers and I'm here with a glass of water? Come on. Mary, thank you. Mary, you are serious, yeah. So, okay. So this road we our students have started to take is a very long road. It's important that they have their goal, where they want to go, but we cannot let them take this road all alone. We have to accompany them and to support them in this. It's a difficult road because students nowadays are not really used to independent learning, at least not in Germany when they are in the gymnasium. So once they have gained these competences and they have reached a certain part of their goal, what is more normal than that they would want to show what they've been doing and what they've learned. So the point here is, how can we make learning visible? You are all Moodlers, so you know that learning can be made visible also in Moodle, but then it would be rather the group's work that is visible if they create something together. And this is how I would just switch over to the next slide, where I contrast Moodle and Mahara. I don't have to tell to you the difference. Moodle is group-centered. It's made for learning together, for collaborating, for socializing. You can work in a database, in a glossary, WebRTC. Just click it away. And you can do many activities where students can work together and where also one student can work alone. On the other side, you have the Mahara. In Mahara, you have just one player, first place. This one student owns his own portfolio, and there is no one else who can share that with him, who can see that, if he is not ready to share it with others. So at first place, he puts his own stuff there. It's his own showcase, which he decides when and who to show to. So it's a perfect couple, I would say, for a school, for a setting in education. Certainly, you can use Moodle without Mahara. You can use Mahara without Moodle. But I don't know whether Diljot and Nadav, whether you know that Mahara has been developed very closely to where Moodle has been developed. It's also open source, but Mahara has been developed in New Zealand. I think that was in 2006, if I remember right, and it was made for the National Education Board, and they have Mahara all over New Zealand. Hebrew 6 years. Oh, really? Oh, then I don't have to tell you. You're an expert. So they really, even the developers, the developers for Mahara have been developers for Moodle before. So you can imagine that the code is it was very close, and now it's diverging because Moodle has been developing so very much. So, but it's the perfect couple because you have at one side you have the group that is located in a Moodle course, and on the other side, each single user has his own Mahara where he can showcase his competences. Yeah, there are amazing people. Yeah, Christina is so helpful. They're also helpful. And I think the community at Mahara, as it is a smaller community, somehow I almost think they know each other. That's fantastic. Alison Miller also wrote a blog entry on Moodle and Mahara, why we need both. So basically it's the same, they are the same arguments, but I found a very nice table she made. And she contrasted Moodle and Mahara, and you can see here first place, she also talks about control, who is in control. Yeah? And then what does it capture? Normally Moodle captures the learning product, and in Mahara, any portfolio is more for the learning process. Not necessarily though. I told you it's a tool, so you can even use it to show a learning product, the final presentation of a project, for example. So it's very flexible. Yeah, exactly. So that's a very old table I created many years ago, and you can see that this is owned by the class, it's owned by the student, and here it's really the teacher who is in control, And here it is really the student who is in control. If I'm going too fast, just tell me, but as I have experts, only experts here, I don't think we have to talk very long about these tables. Is that okay for you? Give me, yes, okay. Okay, fine, good. Because anyway, you can come back to the presentation. Yeah. So the Moodle as a group of learners for cooperation, communication, and so on. We saw a lot of good examples on this during the iMoot, by the way. I was very impressed what people are doing. They can empower their learners by giving them rights in Moodle. And this is the colorful picture of a Mahara user. It's very individual, personal. The learner controls everything, and you have everything between totally private and totally public. We'll have a look at that later. Maybe we can do some desktop sharing later if we have the time. You have the social network, and when I started introducing my students to Mahara, the first thing I let them do is getting connected in Mahara, to find friends, to get connected to friends, to give comments on the pinboard and stuff like this. So they know this from Facebook and all the other social media. So you don't even have to explain very much to them. If I do that with teachers, I do that less because that's not really what teachers are so interested in. My students were in vocational school, Mary, so they were from 16 upwards. So that was the perfect age to do something like this. At my last group of students I had, that was in Heidelberg, they were they were going to be media experts. So you can imagine when they had to do a report on their practical training in Word. They had to do this all the years before. So they told me, oh, we have to do this report on our practical training and we hate that. And I said, no problem. And that was the time when I started with Mahara. So I had them do this in Mahara, and I didn't have to explain them a lot. We learned together. That was fantastic. And then there's another thing I always tell people: if they want to start Mahara with students, don't tell people, or even with teachers, don't tell them, okay, now here's a tool. You can do reflection with that. You can do your e-portfolio. No point. They have to have a purpose for that. They have to have a real purpose, and not just doing it for the sake of doing Mahara. So our real purpose was that the students had to do a report for their practical training. So they could write a blog they could write blog entries every day. They could make pictures and everything. And that was very interesting for them. And I didn't have to convince them. So always look for a good occasion, a good opportunity where you would need this tool, and not just explain the tool and say, okay, you will find possibility. So that's what I do with in teacher training. I always try to find out an opportunity for them where they could use that. So what can you do in Mahara? You can collect all kinds of stuff, and this is called artifacts. As you all know, we agreed leaving this a little bit strange expression all over the translation. Yes, hello, you want to say something, Marco?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
You're fine.
Okay, sorry.
Just came in. Yeah, no problem. You can take the mic at any time because I'm going to do this in a very relaxed way. There are only a few people. It's just family. So I'm not going step by step really as I used to do in the first presentation. So you can collect all kinds of stuff, but collecting stuff is already a learning process, I think, because you have to have a certain goal, you have a project, and you have to think what kind of stuff fits into this project. So this is already a point where you also have to reflect about that. So that's the second thing. Don't start introducing Mahara by telling people whether they are students or teachers, especially in Germany. I don't know what about in England or other countries. Mahara is a tool for reflection about your learning. Just your participants, they will just run away because they will be scared that they have to start reflecting now. People normally are not so much used on reflecting on their learning. They just learn, but don't reflect about that. So it's less complicated, I tell them. A reflection is already, for example, if you give your students 5 questions on a certain project, which they have to answer, and then they have to think about this project. Yes, it is used as a portfolio. Yeah, I will show you examples later. So the reflection comes in naturally and not as a separate process. And the more you get on, the more they get used to these reflection, to these lead questions, they will come up with their own reflections, I think. Definitely, Anthony. Yeah. I don't know. I started that, and I don't know what the teacher, when after I left this institution, whether they continued, but I might find some examples, and I still have some examples of some students. And if you like, we can work together. I could even, Anthony, if you like, I can even make an online introduction for your students. It's no problem at all. Just tell me if you need my help, and we can do that. So, the reflection. Then we have the presentation of what we've collected. This is a nice picture, not online, not digital, but nice the same. And you see here, it really doesn't matter which tool you are. The tool needs to be appropriate. And I think for this girl, this is an appropriate tool to have this huge poster to present her findings. The last step is to publish something. I think you all know, you are all familiar with WordPress and Blogger. So in WordPress and in Blogger, you publish. You can make it either private or public, but there's nothing in between. I just come back to publish. In Mahara, you will see later when I go to the screen sharing, there's everything in between private and public. Also for persons. And this is going to be interesting, Anthony, for your students, because then they might share their e-portfolio with a specific person, or with specific persons only. So you can collect anything that is digital, from a simple PDF file or Excel file or whatsoever to a very elaborate video you have made. You can integrate everything that is embeddable from the web. You can use everything that is in the web as links or as pictures or whatsoever. Everything can be integrated. We all know this from Moodle already. But the thing is, oh yes, Sam has a lot of good examples. By the way, Sam, in my examples, I have yours as well. So I'll talk about that later. Yeah, maybe you can put the link then. Now I lost my red thread. Anyway, I'll just continue. So you can manage knowledge, and this is something which is becoming more and more interesting for companies, where you have people working in groups who have to solve a problem, and then they could, for example, this product could be well represented, for example, in ePortfolio group page or so. Yeah, or in the forums. Yes, okay. Then you can collect your work results. So you see that this would be more or less a product portfolio and not a reflection portfolio. You can show your competences. For example, Sam, you could show your competences in archery or in dance or whatsoever. Sam has so many competences. You could have 4 e-portfolios for that. And then it's about the reflection of the learning process, and that's where the teacher comes in as a person who helps. It's for lifelong learning, and as it is for lifelong learning, we are all learners our life long. I'm learning while I'm doing this presentation. You hopefully learn something from my presentation. It is absolutely necessary that the students can keep their portfolio. So this is a prerequisite. If you ask your students to work with e-portfolios, then you have to guarantee them that they will not lose what they have created over, let's say, their 5 years in an institution. for example, when they leave the institution, they will have no more access to their Moodle course. If they want to keep that, what is in the Moodle course, they will have to save it in other places. But Mahara is different. Mahara, all the stuff that is in the e-portfolio of one student belongs to the student and not to the institution. So the institution has to make sure that the student has access even after leaving the institution. It is less dramatic. It has become less dramatic with the last versions of Mahara, because now we've had the export function, I think for 3 years now, or for 2 years, I don't remember. So the student can export their stuff. It's just 2 clicks. It's not difficult. Every student can do that and take that away. And it's a format that can be imported in other e-portfolio systems. The developers agreed with other systems that it would be compatible. And there are many other open Mahara platforms where a student can go and import his own stuff. But this is very important. It has to be clear that this belongs, the student is the owner. Professional development, that's an ideal tool, and you will see later an example from Manitoba, from Don Present. He's been doing great stuff in Canada. You must have heard about him. I got some examples from his, he's doing career portfolios with adult students for professional development. And then finally applying for jobs. And I have seen this working. For example, my students who had done their portfolio on their practical training, they had to do a second practical training and apply in a company for getting a placement. So one of my students who did something really extraordinary, he used very little text, but he had made a lot of photo stories and things like that. He used that to get a placement in a unique company where they are very advanced, and he got that because he had handed in his e-portfolio with a secret URL to get this job. So this really works, and it's getting more and more common already also in Germany, because all they have to do is they create one single page or even a collection of what they think is appropriate for applying for this job placement, and then they create just a secret URL which they send to the company. So all the company, all the PH has to do is just click on the link, and then the page opens without the need to be registered in Mahara. It looks like a web page then, but it has all the interactivity and so on, and everything is running fine. So this is a big opportunity for applying for jobs, and I'm definitely sure that this is going to be the future. So it's for personal learning too, very colorful. A tip I always give my teachers when they want to start with students, let the students, after they have socialized and they have made friends and so on, let them start with a page where they show off their hobby or what they do private. And it was very interesting when my students did this, because I learned a lot from my students. I learned a lot about my students too. Very interesting stuff. And you know, if they can work with something they are familiar with, then they forget about technology. They just do it. So I had to do very little scaffolding. It's a little bit more difficult with teachers, but we all know this. And it's learning anytime and anywhere. It's the same that applies to Moodle. I don't have to talk about this. And Mahara has also a responsive design, so you can, without any problem on your mobile device, you can look at your pages. You can even, there's for example the Mahara possibility. It's for Android and for Apple, that you can upload stuff directly from your mobile device into your Mahara file system. And for example, on field trips, that's quite handy. Students are taking pictures and making notes, and then they can just with one click, they send them up to the Mahara and can work with them later when they are at home directly in Mahara. But this is the big question mark, the big exclamation mark, the big problem. We need to change our mindsets to do that. Because if we give this, as I said before, if we give control, if we give more control for their learning to our students, then we have to give away control. And if you have the opportunity, just please watch. That's an absolutely must. It was brilliant, and she's very enthusiastic. Pascalie Bouperon, she did a presentation on the social sides of e-portfolio of Mahara at the Mahara Hui, and it's all online. All the Christina Höppner, she did all the hard work to put the stuff in YouTube. There's a whole channel on Mahara Hui that's really priceless. And she also talked about change in teaching and learning, and that this is very difficult. So we have to go slowly there with teachers. We have to be patient, and we don't have to tell them, you know, you have to change your mindset, you have to give away control. So, and Pascal says, free the learners. But that's what we have to do anyway, because otherwise learners, they will run away. So now I will show you an example of how I did this. As you can see here, all my classes I had their personal Moodle course room. That was absolutely a must, where we worked together, where they set up, for example, I set up a glossary, and they were responsible for the vocabulary, because we did specialized text on certain topics. So we had topic glossaries, and the students were responsible of filling the glossaries. That is okay if you have students who are not adult learners. In another school, I had adult learners. They came back to school after having worked for a couple of years. And then I told them, you know, you are responsible. They were building technicians. And so we did a lot of stuff on building. And we always worked with stuff from the internet, with real life stuff. And I did not make it easier for them, but I gave them really the hard stuff to do. And I asked them to find out the special words related to this topic of the building, for example, structural engineering. So we had a glossary, structural engineering, and they just at the beginning they wouldn't agree on that. They had to set up their own glossary. They said, "You as a teacher, you are paid for this job. You are supposed to do that for us." And it took me quite some time to get them on the way to be responsible for their own learning. So you see, with younger students, very often it's much easier. And it also depends on the setting in the school where you are. If you are in a school where this is common practice, that students have to be more active, then it's not a problem. But if you are in a school where there's very old school teaching, then you have a hard time. So that's their Moodle course room. And what I did is I put in the topics here. That was about Jamie Oliver's food revolution. And and then I put in the questions, which I normally would have put into a Moodle assignment for them to upload their results in the assignment. I got fed up with that, because what I found is they had done such brilliant work, and it was just hidden in the Moodle course, in the assignments. It was not nice sitting in the database as well, and I didn't like it in the glossary because, well, it was not really nice to see. So we decided that to accompany our Moodle course, we would set, I used to work as an English teacher, as you can see, we decided that we would set up a Mahara portfolio for the English course, for the English lessons, where they could put in the stuff they would have normally uploaded into Moodle. So this is not the topic of Jamie Oliver now, but it doesn't matter. But it's just one example of a student. We call this, we were thinking about finding a topic, a common topic for that. And we came up with the Learning Diary English. And you can see these are media experts, so they were not very happy with the layout. The layout has become much better now, and you can do many more things now with Mahara, with themes and so. But at the time when I had them, it was very, very basic, and they did not find this satisfying. They couldn't do the same things they could do in WordPress or Blogger. So they kind of found workarounds to make it a little bit more sexy. So he just did the headline, and then he decided about the layout, and he decided where to put in what. And I can't show you his page now, because that's 5 years. 5 years have passed since that, and they are no more on the server. So but I will show you other screenshots. And this student here, Etienne, he has decided to put in also his profile information. By the way, when I was still teaching, and I had to present on Mahara locally in other schools or in conferences, I always took 2 or 3 of my students with me, and I just introduced Mahara, and then I let my students present, and that was always applauded because they convinced people about how useful Mahara was and how they liked working and learning with Mahara. They could do this much better than any teacher could have done it. That was really, so this is a great tip. If you have students available who are working with Mahara, just take them along and let them present their Mahara portfolios. We did this once, also a colleague, the CASA people, they did that. They took along 2 or 3 students and they did the whole presentations. Yeah, students presenting. Yeah, exactly, Mary. You saw this. This was cool. This was much cooler than if the teachers themselves would have done that. Because it's much more convincing. Yeah, exactly, Mary. That's what I was talking about. So then there's another advice I would like to give you. If you want to work with students, then you can't expect your students to do something you yourself are not doing. So you always have to either accompany them, or you have been working with, or you should have worked with Mahara before. But if you don't have to work with Mahara before, it's okay if you just start, if you go along with your students and you learn together with your students. You don't have to build a very elaborate castle at the beginning. Just start building a hut, and then by the time it will develop into a very interesting building. So that's a collection. You can see this here at the register. There are many different pages which are in this collection, and one of the pages is my work, my Mahara project page with my students. And to make that recognizable immediately for my students, I put in the class picture of them. And that's where I reflected about what I was doing with them, what went well, what went bad, and where the problems were, where the outcomes was, and so on. And the students, they could comment that. They saw this at every stage. They saw what I was writing. So how do you proceed if you introduce a portfolio? Basically, there is nothing new. It's exactly the same you would do with any other project. So I like to show this slide to skeptical persons and tell them, you know, you've been doing this already. You've been doing this in your teaching. For example, if you have a project, the student has to define the goals and the context. They have to know where they want to go to. They would collect, sort, and combine artifacts to this goal. For example, a simple PowerPoint presentation. They would have to do the same already, basically. They have to reflect and control their learning process. For example, they have to come up with the draft and show it to the teacher, and the teacher would give advice, or they would ask for peer advice or whatsoever. And then they would present and share the e-portfolio artifacts, for example, in front of the class or at an exam or wheresoever. And then in the end, it would be assessed and evaluated, the process and the competences. And then here, whenever I come to this last point, then teachers, you see, I tell you about my experience when I introduce Mahara to teachers who are not yet, who have not yet worked with Mahara or ePortfolio. So I'm doing this presentation slightly different now because you are all experts. So the question that comes up here is, well, this is all very nice, and I might give it a try, but how can I assess that? How can I grade that? So you have to tell them that in the first place, an ePortfolio is not really meant to be graded in the old way. For example, to be corrected where there are mistakes. Because, for example, if you look at the pages of the students in English, there are many mistakes, many English mistakes, many language mistakes. But if they do their homework in a paper diary, there will also be the mistakes. But Other people can't see them, only the teacher, and the teacher cannot correct all the mistakes. So I tell them, explaining that the goal is different, that in an e-portfolio you have to look for the positive things. You have to see what is good, what are the competences that a student is showing here in his page, and where does he have points where he has to improve, where I could help him. So it's much more about feedback than about grading. But this does not mean that you cannot grade that you can't give credit points to your students. Because my students, when we decided to do that, the second thing they said was, well, Miss Jakob, but we are ready to do that, but we want to get credit points for that. I said, okay. Well, it would have been free for me it would have been okay, but if you want to have credit points, okay. So we sat down together, half an hour or an hour or so, and we made a grid. We made a rubric, very simple rubric you would use also for grading PowerPoint presentation or whatsoever. And the students, they understand very well what is important, what are the meaningful points they have to fulfill in such an e-portfolio to get a good grade. So it was basically working together with the students that we found out what we would like to have what would be required to be a good e-portfolio. And I tell you, I never had any problems with grading them with e-portfolios. So that was very easy. So this is the scenario again. Just keep that because you all know that. And I think that very important for them is the social networking, because they are also used with this networking in Facebook and in other social networks. That's the first thing that they do. That's a profile page. You can adjust that. I would just like to know, all of you, Jim, Marco, Nadav, Viljot, are you familiar with Mahara? Just give me a yes or a no in the chat, please, so that I know what I have to talk about. Because yes, Sam, yes, sure, Sam. Jim, what about you? Are you familiar with Mahara? I think Jim has stepped out of the room. Marco, are you familiar with Mahara? Marco is not there. Nadav. Viljot? Ah, yes, you said yes. Okay. So I think I can skip that. I don't have to tell you that you can adjust the profile page. Then the nice thing about the pinboard is that you can make it public or private. And how about talking about the integration with Moodle a little bit more? Yeah, you mean with the with uploading and with uploading assignments and stuff like that. Yeah, I will do that because Christina, she has talked about that in her presentation. Yeah. Let me just talk about the fridge, because the fridge symbol has proved quite useful when introducing Mahara to newbies. Because the problem that newbies have is the difference between content and portfolio. Someone wants to take the mic? Marco?
Yeah. I am little familiar with Mahara, starting a little bit.
Okay, but you have already seen the features?
Yes.
Okay. So I use this metaphor of the fridge to explain that the content sits in the fridge of the user. And whether it's profile or profile pictures, the files, the journals, the resume, or whatsoever, it is all in the fridge and it is not visible to all the other users. It is only visible for the owner. So if I want to make it visible, I have to take it out of the fridge. I have to do something with it. I have to lay a table. Just let's go back to the fridge. Here you can see the content. That's what I call fridge. You have all this stuff, and it's visible only to the user, to the owner. You have the file section where you can upload files, and very important, I don't know whether you are all using this. If people want to upload a file, and this is especially important in a school context, to make sure, as the teacher doesn't have control anymore of the stuff students are uploading, at least he has to be sure that he is not responsible for everything. So here the student takes over responsibility and has to click this button, this checkbox, that he has the right to upload the stuff he wants to integrate into his file, so that he has the copyright thing and everything, that it is his own stuff or that it's an artifact he has the right to upload into his file repository here. Very important. Sometimes, if you in the normal installation, this is not yet activated, so the admin has to activate that. Yeah, that's right, Mary. That's what they do. But in the end, they accept that here it's their responsibility. So at least for us, it's a little bit safer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But this means that we also all teachers have to educate them in the use of the copyright thing. So these are the files. Then you have the journals. When I explain journals, then I explain them as a diary, because everyone knows what a diary is. Not all the teachers know what a blog is. So I explain this as diaries, and you can have as many diaries as you want, but they still sit in your fridge. They are closed and sit in your fridge. You can have a diary or journal for your English lesson. You can have a journal for your practical training. You can have a journal for your teacher development portfolio, and so on. Normally I create journals for all the conferences where I give presentations and workshops, so that people can see my reflections as well. But they belong to the content. Yeah, now you can add images from a URL. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've always been doing that. So this is the next step now. I open my fridge and I decide to invite people. So tonight I would invite all of you, because that's easy. That's a small group. I can easily cook for you. And yeah, exactly. And this is the table I've already prepared. This is my portfolio. And this is the starter. Well, the name artifact doesn't really fit with that. It's unanimous. It's unanimous, exactly. So this is an artifact which I will serve people, or you now, who I've invited for dinner. And now we come to the portfolio, and you can see these are the pages. For a page, I use the symbol of a table. I lay the table, and it depends very much. It depends very much on the on the guests I invite. For example, if it's a garden party, I would choose a different layout than for a Christmas dinner, for example. You can put together many pages, and you have a collection, and you can share a collection with other people. A collection then would lead to, oops, that was too fast, would lead to a restaurant. That's a symbol for a collection. So if you have a collection, you can invite many people to many different tables. So what can you do with collections? You can group single pages, and you can, instead of creating a secret URL for one single page or for each single page, you just put them together and create a single URL for this collection, which you can send to anybody. Or you can open this collection and make it completely public. I will show examples of that too. So I'm very short in my time, so I just run through that now. I would like to say something about groups, because Mahara is a great tool also for groups, where groups can work together. and you have a specific menu for that. You have my groups, you can find groups, you have topics that you can look up whether they are in groups, and any user, any single user is able to create a group. So the normal setting is you have a class, you have a group of learners. For this group of learners, for example, for a workshop, you set up a group. So workshop Mahara Hui, for example. And then you put in, you invite, there are various ways of getting people in. You get people into this group, and now they can communicate within the group, because only as a member of a group you can communicate via a forum. I had to learn this at the beginning. So all the people in your institution should be in this huge group. Automatically, you can enroll them in the group for the institution, so that the institution admin has a possibility to talk to them in a forum. Every single user also has the right to create a group. For example, if 3 students, they have to work on a project, on a common project, they can set up their own group. Nada, no problem at all. You can also go to the recording of the first presentation. In the first presentation, there are also all the examples, and there is also the link. There's also the presentation in the course page, where you have all the links for the examples. I won't have the time to show the examples now because I've talked too much. So you just go there and you can see all the examples. They're explained there. So I'll just go through the group features. You all know them. That's what I already said. What I find very important is the feedback function. It has become much easier now to collect feedback in Mahara, because you can collect feedback not only for a complete page, but for every single item, for one single blog entry, for example. And it's much easier than in Moodle, especially for the students. So they really have to learn to give feedback, and not only thumb up or the like button like in Facebook, but to give constructive feedback, and the teacher has to set an example there too. No way. So let's just skip this because you know this. Share your page, you have full control from one single user, from completely private to a group, or to the institution, or on the Mahara site, or completely public. And you can create a secret URL. And now if we have the time, I'll just show a few examples. That's the Career Portfolio Manitoba site I talked about earlier, from Don Present, who's done great work and still doing great work. Just have a look at this. This is used for job placement. The links are all working in the PDF file in the presentation. The link sits on the screenshot and on the header. So you just have to click on that. Then we have a presentation. The Swiss people in St.Gallen have been working for quite some years with Mahara and ePortfolio. They are they train teachers, and the teachers, they have to make an ePortfolio during their training. So this is a development portfolio. Here we have an example. It's also from St.Gallen. It's a group of learners who have, I think there were 3 of them, who had a project, and they had to demonstrate this, to showcase that in a portfolio page. Then there's, St. Gallen, they're really doing complex work. That's a single student who reflects about their teacher training time. And this is something you might have heard about Klaus Himsel. He is very well known in Austria. I think he's been the first one to work with Mahara and ePortfolio, and he's done his master on ePortfolio, and naturally has also put all the master stuff in ePortfolio pages, and he has put in a whole collection on his dissertation. Highly interesting, even though it's in German. Highly recommendable. Very comprehensive. And this I put in, I think that's New Zealand too. because sometimes people ask me from which age we can use Portfolio, Mahara, ePortfolio with learners. And this is a page which deals with the use of ePortfolio with young learners. So have a look at this too if you have young learners. Then you have templates. There's a lot of discussion on templates. I personally don't like templates so much, but I can agree to Christina's thesis that she says, well, if you have new users and they are a bit scared, they might not be as creative as you would like to have them, then it's helpful for them to give them templates. You just exactly to scaffold their work. So we just set up a template for whatever it is, and we make it copyable, and then they can, from this point, they can start doing their own work. And after some time, they won't need any more scaffolding normally. Then graduating teachers templates. There are templates for all kind of stuff on, I think these are all from my portfolio. Classroom reflection templates. Yeah. So, if you don't know that already, I'm trying to keep that up to date. My Scubit page. There's one Scubit page on Mahara. I love Scubit because you can see immediately what it's about. And I think now you have to register. Then there is this Google Doc that Alison is curating, and it's always up to date. There are many more other examples. Sam, I was sure that I had incorporated your examples. Maybe you can just post the link in the chat now or in the forum. I have no idea where I put this slide. I was sure I had integrated that. Sorry for that. But please put that in the, I will do that. I will put it in the forum. So, last slide. Open the curtain, open the theater curtain, and let your students step outside on the stage to show what they can do and what they have learned. So, power to the learner, set the learners free. So, oh, we got 3 minutes. So, someone asked me earlier, you can all grab your mic, you don't have to type, I think that's faster. Someone asked me earlier about the integration of Moodle and Mahara. Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much. Because this is really a great resource, and Sam has, because Sam really, basically, she's a Mahara specialist. Now she's changed jobs and she's doing Moodle again. Yeah. And the nice thing about Sam's examples are she has private pages and she has official professional pages, so it's really, and she has help pages. She set up a whole, no, that's right. You've done really a great job, Sam. Big example for all of us. Someone asked about the connection between Moodle and Mahara. Well, there are connections in several ways. I'm not sure whether that was the person who left the room. Are you still interested in that? Or do you have other questions? Just grab your mic and ask me. So, what would you like me to talk about? Mary, would you like to contribute something, or Sam, you as experts? There's something important I should tell people.
Can you hear me? Is my sound okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask the question actually, because I haven't used Mahara for a while. And the last time I looked, the assignment Moodle Mahara assignment connection wasn't working. Is it all working fine now? And does it include outcomes into Mahara? So perhaps you could talk a little bit about that, if only for me.
Yeah, I'll certainly do that. I've not been using that. I haven't used this, Mary, because you need to install the plugin. So I have asked Ralph to install the plugin on Mahara.de. But Christina, she demonstrated that, and it's very, if you have a look at her presentation. So what you have to do, the admin has to install the Mahara assignment plugin, okay? And once this is installed, you just have to activate it in the plugin section, and then the user gets, I think it's in Moodle. I think it's in Moodle. No, it's I can't remember quite now, but it's working. So from either side. So which means that you can hand in a Mahara ePortfolio page into a Moodle assignment. And then it can be assessment. And then it can be assessed in Moodle normally, right? The teacher just clicks on it and then the page opens. So it's very simple and easy. Teacher clicks on it, it opens, the teacher can assess it, and the assessment goes into the gradebook. So it's graded immediately. So this works, but you have to install the assessment plugin in Mahara. What is working already is from Moodle. If you have in Moodle, if you have that activated in Moodle, for example, if a student has to upload an assignment, then if the Mahara is activated, then he has two buttons. He can upload it into Moodle, and additionally, he can upload it into Mahara, and then it sits in his Mahara file repository. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, you're all experts. You should have explained that. Is anyone working with that already? Could you just talk about that if you're working, if you've used that actually? I can't use that because I have no students anymore. Dilliot, have you used that? Ah, Dilliot is mute. Yeah, we have used it. And what is the outcome? Do the students really use that? And do you agree that it's very easy for the teacher to assess it in Moodle? Oh, well, 260 students, huge pilot. Yeah. No, I think this is the future. This is the future because then we have both. We have the student who have their own portfolio. We have all their work in one page or 2 pages or whatsoever in a collection, and at the same time we have the Moodle. We can use the Moodle gradebook as we are used to that, and it's really integrated. Yeah, exactly. So for the teacher, it's not difficult once it has been installed. But Jim, does it? For example, a student has to submit. I think it's in the step where a student submits a page for assessment. Is that right? And at that point, he would see that he can put it into Moodle. Yeah, anyway, the plugin does that, and it's exactly. They see their Mahara pages, and then they can pick the page they want to hand in. So there's no uploading involved, nothing. Yeah, that's cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that would even be cooler. Yeah. So you really can work with projects. Yeah, I think that's the future. That the student is responsible for its learning, and still the teacher has some control. Yeah. And all the others in the group, they can see that. I think that's the main point. Because if it's only in the assignment, in the Moodle assignment, then all the others can't see that. Yeah, it has lots of potential. That's what I see as well. Yeah, and they made it so easy. I don't think there are barriers for teachers who start working with the combination of Moodle and Moodle. Then they will know how to do that. Yeah. So I think I've come to the end. It's a pity, Dilliot and Jim, that you are without mic. You could have logged in as with your mic. That's a pity. There are so few of us. But I really recommend you Christina's presentation on that topic, because she's the expert really, and she explains that in detail how it's done.
Well, thank you, Sigi, for a wonderful presentation. It is fascinating to think about all of the potential and how these tools can be utilized to really help students promote themselves and to use what they've learned to really share that with others and really, I think, kind of promote themselves. You know, I really am fascinated by the idea of e-portfolios and the different ways that those can be used to help students really just promote themselves as they move forward. So a great job, and thank you everyone for attending this presentation. Up next, we have Moodle and personality types, and then a sponsor session by Guido Hornig about using PowerPoint as an authoring tool. So thanks everyone for participating. And again, thank you, Sigi, for a great and wonderful presentation that always makes me hungry.
So should I post the picture of the bread or of my food again?
That or
so
even the recipe. You know, the free beer reference was a reference to a free beer recipe, an open source kind of beer, and kind of meant to show how sharing the recipe makes it free, not as in actually being free to consume. But anyways, yeah, whatever you want to share with us, we're always eager to consume.
Oh, come on, roast pork and beef dinner. Stuff? You're really exaggerating. Tell your hubby not to cook such a lot of stuff. Oh, it's incredible. You always make me hungry. Anyway, you know, ePortfolio is about sharing. And I think if we get people to use ePortfolio and share their stuff, this is a huge step into the future too, because the future is sharing, not keeping everything for ourselves. So I'm glad, I'm happy. If you want recipes, just ask me. I will share my recipes with you. And if you come along in person here in wonderful next to Heidelberg, just call me. You can call me. You can contact me on Skype, on Twitter, whatever you like. You're welcomed. I'll cook for you. Promise. Mary, hopefully, and Sam, you will make it one day. Huh? It's about time.
Excellent.
So,
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at this point. And let everyone move on to the next sessions, but feel free to stay here and continue to chat.
Oh, we should have stopped there.